Hello, everyone. Welcome to Anime Soirée. Today we're talking about Vivy Fluorite Eyes song. It is a 2021 anime. It just came out. It's an original. There's no manga to source from. It is done by Wit Studio. 13 episodes. It's very good. It deals with AI. It's got some sci-fi vibes, some time travel vibes. Kind of reminded me a bit of Ghost in the Shell, but with time travel, so maybe more like Steins Gate. But I haven't finished that, so I don't know if I can make that comparison. But regardless, I really liked it. The element of music was probably like my favorite addition that was done really, really well. Like the intro and all the songs that the MC does, like totally like amplify like what would be a good sci-fi show to like something that's kind of magical. Because the MC is an idol, and I think that was a really good addition. And what'd you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. It's like a idol show that kind of baits you in, thinking it's an idol. I mean, I think we all kind of knew it wasn't an idol show going into it because it kind of got the popularity. But I guess going into it, most people would say, "Oh, this is an idol show," and then they start watching and like, "Uh-oh, what the fuck? It's a robot show. It's a sci-fi show." And then at the very last episode, it becomes much more of an idol show because you got like the final song or whatever, which plays into both parts of the story, which is cool. But yeah, I really liked it.
I didn't really like it.
Elaborate.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I thought that I feel like I think my biggest problem with this show is that it seems like I appreciate that it is like a combination of a bunch of different things. Like it's like a sci-fi kind of about like AI, and it's like time travel, and it's like also there's singing and stuff. Um, but like I really felt like a lot of those elements were kind of like half baked, you know? Um, and I also thought that like the like emotional core of the series, which is like basically like the main structure of the show is that it's pretty much always like two episodes. It's like two episode like little episodes, like it's like an episodic story, but each story takes like two episodes to do. Um, Pretty much like the main formula is just like, okay, something something's gonna happen. Our like the cube tells us something bad's gonna happen at this time, and we got to stop it, or else like the AI will win or something. And then it's like always something weird that like shouldn't happen. Like they're like, oh, why would this like the person who's flying the ship, um, who's like supposed to be a robot and really nice, like end up crashing the ship, or something like that, right? Or why would a robot like commit suicide? And then we like basically like learn they like usually there's like some scene where they like explain like their feelings and like there's like this central like the central like idea of the show is like Vivi always asks people like what does it mean to like put your heart into singing, or just like what does it mean to put your heart into something in general. And so like a lot of like the robots that we're looking into for that episode or for that arc or whatever, they like give their perspective on it or whatever, and like kind of like talk about how they're feeling and stuff. Even though they're robots, but they're sufficiently advanced, I guess, to have feelings. But it's just like I don't know. It felt like it was like a weird, like they hadn't done enough to like actually make me care about the characters in the first place. So when they're just talking about like how they feel about these like certain things, it's like I don't really care that much, and they're just talking. And then there's like a fight at the end always, and the fights usually are pretty well animated. But I just feel like the writing in this show was like definitely like a weak point for me, and that's usually like the most important thing that I look for just in like anime and manga and just stories in general. So I don't know. I was kind of disappointed overall about that.
Um, I do kind of agree that I think the smaller episode like amount per like I guess you could call them arcs
Hmm.
was a bit jarring, I guess, until it gets into the later parts. And I do think the overall story was a little iffy for me because like I'm thinking like the entire time like if he goes back so Matsumoto's got like all these events that he's got to stop, and if he goes back and like he's like don't it's not going to bridge the timeline or whatever too much, or something, but like that doesn't make sense. Like if you stop something, if you stop this major event that's supposed to be occurring, and then you notice that like all the later events are still occurring, like I feel like that kind of tells you that everything's still going to happen, that a robot apocalypse is still going to happen. So that's kind of like some issue I had. Like it's just like it doesn't make sense. Like they're just going through stopping all these things, but they're happening anyway, and they don't see any problem with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like these really short 2 episode things that don't give you enough time. They give you enough time to be maybe interested in the premise of the thing, but not enough time to get to be emotionally attached to the characters. Um,
Hmm.
and I would say the characters they wanted us to focus on, or like even like I think the biggest problem for me in the show was Hugo, who is the most reoccurring character. He just didn't seem. I don't know. I feel like they should have either focused on him more or focused on him less because he keeps showing up and like it just didn't seem like I really understood his purpose fully. It just, I don't know. He seemed like you said, half baked. Either focus on him
Hmm.
more or focus on him less. Maybe explain it. I think maybe the show could have, it definitely would have benefited from more episodes, but also would have benefited from fewer, if that makes sense. Like, it's in a weird spot where it dragged on, but I would have preferred if it had taken time to develop some things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even necessarily like opposed to the structure. Like, I do think that like there could, this structure of like having 2 episode arcs and stuff where we kind of like deal with these like more isolated stories about like these different robots and their relationship with humans and like what they're going through and stuff could be good. It's just that I found myself a lot of the time like it seemed like most of the time they were the characters or like the side characters that were like there for the episode were like they led with like talking about like their emotional hangups or whatever and like their feelings and stuff. And it's just like that's not really a good way to like make you care about a character. Like there weren't a lot of times where like they they started by like doing something and then we like learn about their backstory and like and their what their whole deal was and like the emotional core. It was like they led with that and it's like, well, that doesn't really work if I don't already care about the character first. Um, and so I did like, Vivi and Matsumoto, the Cube. I thought they were like pretty good and I like their dynamic. But it's just that a lot of like the main emotional thrust of most of the episodes was not about them. It was about how they're like trying to like figure out or like help these other characters deal with their shit. And I didn't really care about the other characters that much, and the show didn't really do that good of a job in like making me care up
Yeah.
front. Like,
I kind of
Uh,
sorry, really quickly. A comparison I was thinking about in my head was like Violet Evergarden because it's a very similar like robot trying to find emotion or meaning in something. But the thing
mhm,
that this show doesn't have that Violet Ever or maybe this show does have that Violet Evergarden doesn't have that kind of takes away from the emotional moment that you get from some of like those episodic moments is that it's got that robot war background in it. So it's got that to focus on each episode and like that
mhm,
importance that takes away from the possibility of these little mini stories that you see Vivi going through and those emotional cores that are there, but they're kind of overshadowed by the whole robotic impending apocalypse.
uh, I guess I'll chime in now. One of the things I heard you say, Kyle, was you thought a lot of the ideas were half baked. And I did enjoy this show, but I do probably agree with you there, but I don't necessarily think it negates the show. Like for example, they only have 13 episodes, and pushing aside some of the other errors, when it comes to tackling AI, I don't feel like what AI really are to a society was really fleshed out. We looked at like
mhm,
a very, very specific use case of AI. And when it comes to AI shows, I think I kind of like seeing more of how it interacts with like the whole society. We got like a very hyper focused, just whatever Vivi and Matsumoto, I believe, are doing that
mhm.
episode, and that kind of that little tiny slice. But I liked a lot more, like let's say in what was that show called? What was that crime sci-fi show that wasn't Ghost in the Shell?
Psychopaths.
I liked how in Psychopaths, the AI was like uncovered to like have a much greater impact on society and like
Yeah.
determining how stuff like works. So I like it when shows have that more depth, because they had episodes in the end like about really what this whole society is about and kind of how that pertains to our main character. Where in the end, it just felt like, oh, AI wants to destroy us, but we don't really know how it's helping or the complexities as much. It was just more of like AI is going to do a bad thing or humans going to do a bad thing, and we got to stop it. And it wasn't very blurred, which was kind of annoying. So yeah, I would agree that some of the writing and some of the depth that they went into wasn't good. So yeah, but there was things I did like about the show. Like the singing was great.
Yeah,
I
I like
thought the
that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
singing was
Yeah.
cool, and
I would say
yeah,
I would say the thing that the show shines in for me at least the most is like how it fares on a moment to moment basis, and I think it trips up kind of going like bringing those moments together into a cohesive unit. But like moment to moment basis, you have like a bunch of really cool scenes, not just fight scenes. Like I mean, the fight scenes are probably some of the best animated.
yeah,
Like the
they're
scene
good.
between her and Yugo at the end of the Antonio arc, that fight scene was insane. Like that animation was so good. It
Yeah,
almost looked
you could definitely
rotoscoped.
tell that this is like wit because there was a lot of like kind of similar to Attack on Titan where there would be like 2D animation on like a 3D background,
Yeah.
like how they like they definitely honed that craft with like the 3D maneuver gear and stuff.
Hmm.
And there was like definitely some of that. Like I think that scene that you're talking about, they're like literally like there's one point where they're just like falling off a building and the camera is doing like some crazy shit all
Yeah.
around them. So
Um,
yeah, there's like a lot of like cool stuff with the fights.
so
Yeah.
yeah, the fight scenes are in general are awesome. They're really well animated and they're probably probably maybe the high point besides the singing. But like other moments, just for me at least, like that really hit were like, I mean, at the end of the first or second episode, no, I think it's the first episode when you're like, I was thinking, okay, Vivi and this girl are gonna be like traveling. You're gonna see the girl grow up, and Vivi's not gonna be growing up because she's a robot, and that's gonna be some emotional crux. But then the end of the first episode, like you just see her die on a plane. I'm like, oh, okay, this shit's kind of pretty fucking real. And then you've got like
Mhm.
other big moments, like at the end of the Robot Island arc, you've got like the suicide that just completely just it's like a almost I think it's like the halfway point of the show maybe. And the
Yeah,
next
yeah, or
episode,
like right about there. Yeah.
yeah, the next episode, Vivi's like a completely different personality, and you're like, what the hell just happened? And yeah, it's just like these really impactful moments that I think were awesome and I really enjoyed, but just that they maybe weren't cohesively brought together as well as I would have liked them to be.
Yeah, I think that like definitely the strength of this show is like the presentation, whether that's like the animation or like the singing and the singing scenes and stuff. Like I think that those were strong and definitely carried it. And you could tell that like that's the kind of stuff that makes it clear that this is an anime original show. Because there's like a lot of those fights, like they really did take advantage of like those like specific animation techniques and like singing obviously wouldn't work if this was like a manga adaptation. Like you just wouldn't. I mean, singing scenes in manga are never as good as they are in anime because you literally can't hear what they're saying. So yeah, I mean, I think it definitely did like take advantage of the medium, pretty well. But at the same time, like I just generally look for a little bit stronger, like core writing, whether that's like at an emotional level or like from a sci-fi story. Um, because yeah, I don't know, there wasn't like a lot for me to like. There wasn't a lot to hook me in the writing department.
Yeah, if I were to kind of dig a little deeper there, if I were to, I guess, just summarize, I guess those are kind of the opposite. Well, I'm just going to say words, and you guys are going to listen.
Sure, that's what this
Uh,
podcast is.
um, every episode, I think Kyle, you touched on this for sure. You know, there's some random sci-fi AI problem,
Uh
and
huh.
then Vivi, she'll go in and she'll solve the problem. And I think that in the beginning, it's okay for kind of her to have almost an emotionless response, or at least address that she doesn't have much of a response because
Hmm.
she is an AI and she's not human. But I think we really needed to see episode to episode her kind of like progressively have more conflicting, maybe not conflicting, but just more thoughts about what's going on and how it's impacting her. because every episode it seems like she's helping solve this problem, but she doesn't really reflect on like what that means to an AI. Like in that one episode where that guy and his wife, who was an AI, and her AI got put into like the robot island, and her AI was
Yeah.
used to like orchestrate the island, and then she ended up killing his wife because that robot island was important for stopping the singularity, like its destruction or whatever. And then she didn't really have a moment of like humanity, which I think the show needed to address. That that Vivi is showing signs of understanding humans more and their emotions, so that when it builds up in those final few episodes, what is doing something with your heart basically is the question.
Mhm.
I have all these experiences where I can kind of like feel where Vivi is, because I remember when they asked that question and I was like, yeah, that's a good question for an AI. Like, what does it mean to do something with your heart? Like, yeah, that would probably confuse an AI. But it didn't really lead me to that question. Like, they asked it a couple times, but Vivi
Uh-huh.
never really had her own thoughts on that question along the way. There wasn't really any learning or development. So by the end, it just kind of seemed kind of cold. I just didn't really care. But I will say, I kind of just shit on the show a bit. There were a lot of really cool ideas in this show. Having a space hotel, I really liked that episode. I thought that was cool. Having Ophelia being taken over by Antonio, I was not expecting that at all. Maybe I'm just a little
Oh,
baby, but
yeah, no,
I
I
did
didn't
not see
expect that
Oh,
either. Yeah.
that scene especially was super cool when her voice like transforms into Antonio's voice. That was an awesome scene.
Yeah, 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 that was sick. Yeah.
And then one more idea. Oh yeah, and then obviously having Masamoto be that little kid that was at the museum. Like there's and then obviously him developing the AI, and like that's the reason because
Yeah.
he went to go visit a museum. Like those are really good ideas and really unexpected and cool environments. And I think that's what kept me liking the show. But it's like almost they forgot like for the main character to have a voice. I don't know if it's because they're AI that they're not supposed to interpret situations to like, emotional thoughts or whatever. But I think that was the point of the show. They're trying to drive home at the end, like doing something with your heart. And they wanted to have an AI of a semblance of an idea of like what that means. But I don't understand. They never led to that question. They didn't have their characters designed to answer that question. So yeah, that's probably after hearing you guys talk, like I didn't even know that I didn't like that part about the show, but I'm seeing it now. But now I also understand what I did like about the show.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
but I
Yeah,
still like it.
yeah, I mean, comparing it to like Will earlier compared it to Violet Evergarden, I think that's a pretty apt comparison for at least like that aspect of the show where it's like Vivi and like her growth and like trying to figure out what her like mission is like to put your heart into something. And I mean, yeah, it's like that show was you could definitely feel it more with like her growth, I guess.
Hmm.
Even though like I'm not like a huge fan of Violet Evergarden, I thought it was like pretty like slow paced, but like and this show like I would say that it doesn't have that problem of being slow paced. It's like not as like the pacing isn't as introspective, but like it almost feels like it should be given like that kind of is like the like arc of like the main character is like the same as like Violet in Violet Evergarden. Um like I would like more scenes where it's just like her kind of just like thinking about it and like maybe getting towards an answer because yeah, it doesn't really seem like there is like a conclusion on like that like thematic through line that was kind of like and it's not like they like forgot about it, like they kept asking the question, but it's just like we never really got like BV's answer.
I mean, I think that there is a conclusion. It's just like we don't know what the answer is because we don't know enough about the character. I don't know if you were trying to say that, but that's how I would phrase it. It's like I can't
Yeah.
put the pieces together to answer the question at the end because there are no pieces to put together really. But like, they do have that concluding moment where you're supposed to be, they're asking that question, that philosophical question that good shows do. Like that's good that they didn't explicitly answer it because you're supposed to put the pieces
That's true.
together,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
forgot to put the pieces on the table, which
Yeah.
is kind of sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't even dislike Vivi like as a character for being so like emotionless and kind of like autistic when it comes to like understanding human emotions. Like I think it's kind of like charming sometimes. But I mean, yeah, if the show is going to be about like her overcoming that and like coming to a conclusion on these things, then like, yeah, like you said, you got to give us some scenes where she like overcomes that, even if that's not like her core personality change.
Yeah, I was hoping to see. I mean, I really liked, like, obviously when like the Vivi that actually has a personality like takes over in that episode. Like the entire time you're like, well, that's not really the Vivi that I know. Like I kind of want the old
Exactly.
Vivi
Yeah.
back. But like at the same
Yeah.
time, like you want Vivi to have some of those parts. And I do think you see some of them. Like she does like hum to herself, I think, as she's trying to like get her voice back, which you see the other one do. And I really like the scene. I really really like the scene where they're actually changing from personality Vivi to non-personality Vivi, where they're in that in her mind space, or I can't remember what the area was called
The
specifically.
archive.
Yeah, the archive.
Yeah.
I really liked all the archive scenes, A, because they were just beautiful to look at. It was like the sunset in the schoolroom or whatever. But that scene where they're talking to each other and they're like on the other side of the door, like that was awesome. But I would have liked to see a bit more, like you guys are saying. I just didn't see the growth that I would have liked to see, I guess, as out of Vivi. And
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, these shows need to stop making emotionless AI people turn into humans
it's very
because
very common, very very common. I
it's
know.
hard.
Yeah.
Can you guys think of an AI show like I guess is this there's Violet Evergarden. I guess Ghost in the Shell as
I don't
well,
know if I'd put Ghost in the
but
Shell in
she
there.
seems pretty
Yeah.
emotive and that's not like she's just like kind of AI.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she's like like a
She
human
is a
brain
human,
just
yeah.
animated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, it doesn't
Yeah.
count. It doesn't count.
What was the other
I
one we
mean,
were
yeah, there are
talking
definitely.
about?
Oh, well,
Ray Ayanami is kind of that as well.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
really a
because
robot,
she's like
but
a
she's a
clone.
clone. But
Yeah,
she,
but she's
Yeah.
good as a side character because she's
Yeah,
like
yeah. The
basically
show
a
isn't
plot
all about that.
device.
yeah, I'm just
Yeah,
saying it's a pretty common trope.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's fair.
And especially since there are, a large portion of anime viewers don't understand human emotions. Yeah, you
They gotta
understand why they make these shows.
they gotta spell them out
They're
for
trying
you.
to get through to them. Yeah.
And it's kind of bizarre she doesn't have like a recurring human character to like communicate with.
Yeah,
Like they
I could
killed
see
off
that.
that little girl. There was
Hmm.
like that dude that was when they blew up that tower and then he became I forgot his name, but he was there
Yugo.
a couple
That's you.
times.
Yeah, it's
Yugo.
Yugo. Yeah.
He was showing up a bunch, always trying to I don't know, blow AI stuff up, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they never really had any conversations. It was just more he was just angry at her.
Yeah, I think a recurring human character could have been nice to have. It would have been hard to do with how the story was structured. Um, but yeah, Matsumoto wasn't really one to bounce off that. Um, I don't know who it
I
would have
mean,
been.
they could have done a Ghost in the Shell. They could have had
Yeah,
like a human mind and a robot body or
yeah,
something.
they
That
did
wouldn't have
have
been a
like
terrible idea.
her like stage manager robot that was kind of around and that you see her towards the end. That could have been an option for her, but I did actually really like Matsumoto as a character. Like I was kind of expecting the usual twist of Matsumoto maybe being the bad person. That seemed like it was coming towards us,
Hmm.
but didn't end up being that. And I actually ended up really liking Matsumoto because he's kind of a dick at first, and he kind of
Yeah.
learns.
I'm glad he wasn't evil.
Yeah, I'm really glad he wasn't evil as well. And like I really like just like how he and Vivi like their relationship grows and like I think it's the scenes it's yeah, it's right when the like the halfway point when she does change personality that you really get to see like Matsumoto actually realizes like he cares for Vivi or I don't know if it's caring, but he enjoys their partnership at least. And that really
Hmm.
I think that adds a lot to his character as opposed to just being the dick sidekick that's just there to get what he needs done. And it was a really nice pairing as well because like the that entire storyline is the Antonio storyline, and I think they talk about it in the show. But like Antonio's like I'm not any different from you or something like that, and Matsumoto literally has to prove that he's not the Antonio to her Ophelia, you know. Um,
Yeah.
very cool growth for Matsumoto throughout the show. Honestly, more growth for Matsumoto I felt like than Vivy.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of.
I guess I did like at the end when they failed and then Matsumoto's just like, we're gonna do it again
Yeah, I
and I'm
like
gonna
the fact
download it. I
whenever
thought
they
that was
fail,
like,
yeah.
okay, that's a pretty reasonable choice. And I like that they did
Yeah.
fail. And I think it played
Okay, for
pretty
a
well.
while I was like, okay, well, why don't you just do it again? Like they like spent some time kind of being like, oh no, we failed. Like, what are we gonna do now? But it's like it seems so obvious. Like you time traveled once. Like this is the problem with time travel in general because it's like there's pretty much like whenever there's ever a problem in one of these shows, it's like, well, why wouldn't you just solve it with time travel? You know,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of times where they like, yeah, I mean, the whole fake drama at the end with We Lost, I was just like, I was not fooled. I was like, you're just going to time travel again, and like you guys are kind of dumb for not thinking of that immediately.
I
Um,
did
Yeah,
like that
that's
they were
fair.
like they explicitly stated, all right, we can only do this once. So like they were like basically saying to the viewer like, we have one
yeah,
get out of jail free card. Um,
yeah.
but after this, like it's the real deal. But yeah, I agree with you. I was having a hard time finding the stakes because that did creep into my mind. Like, all right, well they're basically at the same time, like just time travel. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I,
I
know.
was definitely. Oh, go on, go on.
I was gonna branch off to something else. So if you got something else about time travel, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, I was just going to express my general distaste of time travel stories.
yeah,
It's very hard for it to be done right. I really can think of like maybe one example of like a time travel story where it's like actually about traveling in time and like using that to like solve problems, and it actually like makes sense and like isn't stupid. Um, and I
It's
don't know,
that
I
Rick.
don't really.
It's that Rick and Morty episode, right?
Oh, maybe I don't know. That's not the one I was thinking of. I was thinking of Homestuck, but maybe that I forget. Wait, which one was that?
It was almost snakes.
Um,
the home
oh
snakes.
yeah, that one was pretty funny. Yeah, that was pretty funny. Jokes. I mean, if time travel's jokes, then it's cool. Like if anything's jokes, then it's cool. But yeah, I don't know. Just when I saw that this was a time travel show, or that there was time travel in it, I definitely was like, oh, here we go again. It
I
wasn't
think I think
horrible,
it
but it
I think
definitely
it
wasn't accurate.
I think it pulled it off better than a lot of places that I've seen. I don't know. It was only a factor in the first episode and the basically the last few episodes, right? So overall,
Yeah,
it
but
didn't
then
have
that
like a
entire time I was like, okay, well, like immediately after they change one thing, then like they should have no more information.
yeah that like yeah that
How would
I think
they?
I brought that up at the beginning. Like if they change one thing, then they should like how would Matsumoto get the future? Because it's everything's changed. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's an issue. Yeah, definitely for sure.
Um,
Um,
what was I gonna branch off to? Oh my God. Oh,
sorry.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say. I remember. I was gonna say the character writing and like their relationships is like weak. But honestly, I felt like some of the more oh, what's the word I'm looking here for? Non sequitur, like dialogue, like, moment to moment, just like joshing around. I thought that was good. I
yeah,
The
remember
band.
like
the bands.
Matsumoto and Vivi were like they made like that competition, and then a couple scenes later like she made a competition again with Matsumoto as like a child, and like that's pretty smart because he might have gotten that idea like from himself,
Yeah,
because if that makes sense, because
yeah.
they had that
Yeah.
conversation, talked to you guys, got it. I was like, yo, that's like pretty next level writing right there. I don't know. I don't understand why you couldn't do that with like an entire character arc. So these writers were definitely capable, because I don't know if they tried to get to that depth, but at the end of the day, the character writing was the issue. I just wanted to specify that I thought the moment to moment dialogue was pretty good.
Yeah, I
Yeah, like there's
definitely
a
agree.
reason that I liked the dynamic between Vivi and Matsumoto, even though like none of their characters were like super deep or anything. It's just that when they were talking to each other, I was like, yeah, this is cute. This is fun. They like have different personalities that bounce off of each other in a good way.
Hmm.
So I like that.
I also liked how Matsumoto talked really fast. It was awesome. It was like the
Oh, and
fastest
that
talking
one
character I've ever seen, especially in the beginning. He was talking so fast.
that one scene where he was just like pondering and he was going, and then he was just like turning over on his cube like in a circle. I thought that was really
Yeah, his
funny.
emoting on his cube that they added towards the end of the show was awesome. He just like had the I think he had like an hourglass when he was thinking or something like that. It was like some kind of emote when he was thinking. And he had like a heart emote and stuff. It was good. Cute.
Also, he looks a lot like the Oracle from Halo.
He looks
Yeah,
like a
and
mini
like
companion cube.
he yeah, and like the guy in Portal 2, I forget what his name, like
Wheatley.
Wheatley or
Oh,
something.
Yeah, it's Wheatley.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wheatley in companion cube form.
yeah.
And the CG was good. I'll say
Yeah,
that.
it was very
Uh,
I mean, it was very Wit Studio, but also it was just very Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, where it was like you don't see the CG a lot, but when you do, it's like the vehicles and stuff. It's like CG or something like that. Um, yeah, it's like there, but it's like not in a place that I really mind it. I don't think I ever
It was
noticed anything in like big scenes that I like stuck out to me. Um, I guess
I
maybe
think
the
maybe in the
overall
moments.
ending,
unobtrusive.
Yeah,
yeah, maybe in the ending there was a couple like I don't know, some stuff was getting sucked, and I
I
was like,
guess
yeah,
I
it
guess
looks a
the
little
biggest thing
CG,
for
but
me was
okay.
whenever Matsumoto transformed into his like bike, this cube bike that
Oh,
looked
that's true. Yeah,
it looked a little
Yeah,
weird, but it wasn't too bad. I didn't really care too much.
yeah, it's okay. I'm not gonna
I
make
didn't.
these animators animate 2 dozen cubes every episode.
Yeah,
I'll let it pass. That's a gift.
especially when their fight scenes are so good. Um,
Um, I'm ready to move on to ratings. It's only 13 episodes. I feel like we kind of covered
Yeah,
all
I just
the
want to say like
bases.
I really think that the way that the openings were done was awesome. Like we kind of talked about the
Sure.
music already, but like just like the way that it's like I mean it's not every episode and especially it's only towards the beginning, but like the way that the open there's like 4 or 5 different openings for a 13 episode series. And I mean it does have like a standard opening, but like the ones that aren't standard are like straight up just like her performing. It's like literally in the episode her doing the opening, which is like pretty creative, and I really enjoyed it. And the music itself is just awesome.
Yeah. Goated openings for sure. Definitely one of the best usages of openings, and like the music was pleasant, and I guess the production on the panels kind of like moving around in like squares and animating all over. It was cool. It's
Yeah.
pretty alrighty. Anything else, Kyle?
Oh yeah, yeah. Also, Vivi is a traitor because the second that someone came and said, "Yo, are you trying to like kill all AIs?" She was like, "Yeah, let's do it," even though she is an AI. So
Oh,
not cool.
I actually I'm curious what you guys like thought of the ending. Like, did you think it was a good ending, solid ending, bad ending? I thought it was like a pretty solid ending. Like, I didn't think it was fantastic, but I thought it was like it was good. Like it was pretty sudden, and I don't know how I felt about like short hair Vivi at the very end. Like I don't, it doesn't seem for me. My gut instinct was not like this is sequel bait or whatever. It was just like kind of like a quiet resolution, or like maybe it was like in Vivi's mind or something. But um, I did see some people online saying, "Oh, that was some bullshit sequel bait. Vivi two's coming." I didn't get
I
that
Yeah.
instinct. I was kind of curious what you guys thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really like it. I mean, I definitely did think that like my biggest problem with the ending is just that there's like not really a strong resolution that we can make on like Vivi's character. And that's kind of the whole point of the show.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say that it was like definitely a failure of an ending for me just because of that. Like we can't even really speculate. It doesn't give us enough to speculate on. Um, and then I'll honestly probably even be more annoyed if a sequel is announced.
Oh yeah, I'll
Um,
definitely be annoyed if a sequel's announced because that would prove that that would be sequel bait. But
yeah.
um, I don't know. I didn't get the vibe from it when I saw that scene.
Yeah,
I would just
that. Oh yeah, go on, go on.
I was just gonna quickly gonna say that the ending is about as good as it could have been, given the circumstances.
Yeah, I'd say that. I mean, I think if you were to take everything before the last episode and say what like how good of an ending can you give this, then yeah, I would say so. But if you're thinking about it from the whole thing as a thing like or as a show, then I would say yeah, you need to give Vivi a better development and like a final resolution to that development. But yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I wasn't really. Well, after the ending, I was kind of just it did left the show with a bad taste in my mouth,
Okay.
I would say.
I wouldn't say it left the show with a bad taste in my mouth. I just kind of was just like, yep, that's the ending.
Yeah, I'm with Griffin on that for sure. But yeah,
That's
that's why
fine.
I was just curious. Um,
Cool.
because of
All right.
our
Kyle, do you want to go ahead and kick off the ratings? Because I'm sure you're gonna have some strong feelings to express.
Oh, I mean, I didn't hate the show, I just didn't like it either. So I give it like a 5, I guess. Because I would say that um the writing, I would say I mostly didn't like. I thought that the sci-fi aspect of the show was definitely underdeveloped and unimpressive. Time travel, I would say the exact same thing. Um, like character writing long term, like their arcs, I would also say that. Um, the character dynamics and just like general likability of the characters, I would say that was like probably like the strongest point of the writing. But I mean, these aren't like characters that I'm gonna be like, oh man, like remember Vivi? She was so good. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, she was all right. She carried me through the show, so that was good. And then the writing of like the side characters, I would say was like pretty bad too. It just like didn't really make me care about them that much. But like the good things, the presentation, I would say, like that being like the animation, the singing, the fight scenes, that was good. Um, so yeah, I'd say like a five.
Um, I'd say probably like seven, 7.5, something like that. I don't know. I just really enjoyed watching the show. Like I said, moment to moment basis, it's just an enjoyable thing for me to watch. I liked all the dynamics of the characters. I do think it struggled with establishing those arcs with them, and it did flounder a bit on Vivi's character towards the end. Um, I did like the concepts of most of like the small stories. I just think it could have benefited from having them be a bit more fleshed out and having those characters be fleshed out so that their emotional core would be a bit better. But yeah, overall, just I just enjoyed watching the show, and I think it was a pretty. I don't know. I think anime originals generally they can be getting a bad rap just because they don't have that thing to fall back on. Not a bad rap, but it's harder to pull off well, I'd say. And so I think it was a pretty solid attempt from it. So like 7 or 7.5.
I'd probably go in the 6.5 to 7 range. I'll just say 6.5. I do like the show. It just, in retrospect, it does feel lifeless. No pun intended. By comparison to other shows about similar topics, there typically tends to be like a human force, combating AI, and it didn't really feel represented. And I feel like that's almost necessary. But it's really ballsy to make a show about AI and the consequences to humankind and not have like a main human character. They ask a lot of like interesting philosophical questions, but once again, it's lifeless to a degree. So, they ask these cool questions that, a lot of AI shows I think try to ask, but there's just not the story to really contextualize these questions and put into perspective a character's understanding. And it's kind of a shame because there's some really cool ideas, some really good twists, some funny and interesting dialogue, some cool locations, but it's just really lacking the depth in terms of characters and just the world as well. Basically everything you guys said. So yeah, I think a 6.5 is good because just the sounds and the animation, and there's just enough there where it's enjoyable, but it's really not breaking that threshold of, I really took something away from this and feel like, another show needs to do exactly what these guys are doing, because I wouldn't really say that. Maybe beyond the creativity of using the opener and integrating it so well into the rest of the show. That's probably the one thing, and that's not enough to make an entire show off of even only 13 episodes. So yeah, I feel pretty good about 6.5. And with that, if there's no closing remarks,
I
Kyle
do have a
will.
closing remark that this is going to be a nice comparison to our next anime original that we are uh, discussing, which I don't know if it's next week or 2 weeks, which is Wonder Egg, because yeah, I've got some pretty strong thoughts about that as an anime original.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I also want to say that like, if there are any anime creators out there watching this podcast, don't let me giving this show a five discourage you from making anime originals because I think there needs to be more of them.
Yeah, I agree
Um,
100%.
so yeah,
Be creative.
Just
yeah,
plan a lot, plan around us.
yeah.
We
Think
will
about
Yeah,
be
would
send
Kyle
us
approve of this writing choice?
yeah, send us
And
your
then
screenplay really quick, and we'll get back to you on that one.
yeah,
That actually might be a fun idea for a video if we could find like like maybe anime original or like manga concepts that were like rejected. That would actually, if there's like a database out there, that'd be cool.
Be interesting.
Anyway,
I'm sure there'd be a lot of garbage to dig through.
yeah, but that's what it's all about, baby. Anyway, if there's nothing else, follow us on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Spotify. They should all be Anime Soirée. There might be an official in there somewhere. I don't know. I don't make the names. And with that, we're signing off. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.